Spider-Man 2 is the direct continuation of the first part and a branching story of Miles Morales. It's so direct that most parts of the city are the same locations as in the previous game. More precisely, in the games, but whether the developers managed to introduce some radically unique solutions into a new project to make the new Spider-Man feel like a new game rather than a big DLC. Today, we will talk about that. This is a review of Spider-Man 2 by Insomniac Games. As soon as the first footage started appearing online, everyone rushed to share screenshots of the Little Odessa district. It's the first place you are offered to visit to take photos and complete side missions. At this moment, there is no main storyline mission, so the developers subtly but almost force you to see the beauty they've created there. What about the game's content? As I mentioned, Spider-Man 2 is a direct continuation of the two previous games in the series, so if you haven't played them, they will provide a brief intro and recap the main events of the prequels in 2 minutes. This time, you have the opportunity to play as both Peter Parker and Miles Morales. Also, at some points you will have stealth sections as Mary Jane, just like in the first part, and a bit of gameplay as… spoilers. Both Spider-Man share common gadgets and a shared suit upgrade system. However, each of them has their own set of skins, each with 3 or 4 colors and their own skill tree. There are 3 skill trees, one for Peter, one for Miles, and a shared one. This is still the main numbered part, more skills belong to Peter. However, his larger skill tree is related to the plot, and some skills will be locked. Although, you can choose to play as either character outside the main quest at any time. About 65 to 70% of the time you will play as Peter in the storyline. There won't be any video spoilers except for those Sony shared in their presentations. So, as Sony demonstrated earlier in trailers, Peter Parker will have a symbiote suit for a certain period of the game, and half of the skills you can upgrade are associated with it. You can have a total of 4 active skills at the time, and they are used by pressing L1 and one of 4 main action buttons: circle, triangle, square or cross. The story is the same with gadgets, but here you need to press the right trigger. Unlike character skills, you'll only have 4 gadgets, so there isn't much to choose from, but this is compensated by the fact that technical devices like gadgets or suit modifications can be upgraded, and that's where the complexity of the game begins. All the aforementioned devices like skins for costumes and the enhancement of the costumes themselves use special tokens. These tokens are exclusively obtained through side missions. If you want to upgrade health points, go photograph buildings. If you want to upgrade the drone that pulls enemies into a web pile, go clear the streets of thugs or collect collectibles, and so on. The game kindly explains how to obtain a particular resource, but for story missions you'll only receive experience and one of 4 types of these tokens. Sometimes to upgrade a certain aspect of the costume you'll need 2 different types of tokens, meaning you'll have to complete different types of side missions. If you don't like to grind, in the grand scheme of things, you'll only be able to update the skills of the heroes that are unlocked through skill points and gained experience. However, upgrading gadgets and costume skins, all of this involves clearing out outposts and collecting collectibles. It has reached the point where to unlock teleportation between districts, you also need to complete side missions in that district and gain reputation. In completed around 2 or 3 quests of all types of side missions, finished the entire storyline and still didn't unlock any fast travel excerpt for a very rare exception. The side quests, with very few exceptions, didn't create strong enough interest to motivate myself to grind. Now there are air currents between which you can glide faster, but still, sometimes you need to fly for 5 minutes from one story mission to another. Want teleportation? Grind. And all of this in the grand scheme of things in the same location as before. The level of detail has become much better, sometimes you can even see people inside buildings going about their businesses, and it feels like New York has expanded by about 30%, but for the most part it still feels like the same locations and the same New York. If you are not Digital Foundry, comparing two images side by side, you won't feel any radically new or overall new experience from New York in the sequel, except for perhaps Little Odessa. When they made essentially safe continuations for Horizon and God of War, at least the locations there were mostly completely new or maximally reworked. Even the somewhat crooked Assassin's Creed Mirage created a new city for each semi-game for half the price. Unfortunately, here the majority of New York remains the same. This is of course inherent to the Spider-Man setting, and the story missions try to put you in some new interesting conditions, such as climbing in some premises or through basements or sewers. Towards the end, when certain plot events start happening, the city changes quite drastically, but it's only for a couple of hours in the final stages of the storyline. During this period, you essentially have only one type of additional task, while the rest of the time, which is about half of the game's content, is still the same New York as in the first Spider-Man, just slightly larger. It's not so much a criticism of the developers, it's more of a fact. And it feels a bit secondary, but if you abstract from the grind, the progression itself is quite good. It's well thought out, with not many branching paths, but all the enhancements are necessary and important. Even after completing several quests for each type of side task, I managed to slightly upgrade the suit, unlock a few new skins and upgrade some gadgets. It's very basic, but it still gives an understanding of how progression affects the game, and it's genuinely useful and concise, especially since you can familiarize yourself with everything, even the unreleased levels, without any problems. The map is not hidden by a fog of war like Peter Parker's skills until you get the symbiote, so you can decide in advance what is the most important to you, upgrading stealth, strength, health or gadgets. Regarding the Spider-Man, they have different abilities, and the fact that there are two of them is justified not only in the storyline but also in terms of gameplay. Miles, in addition to the above-mentioned gadgets, has abilities related to electricity. Those who played his spin-off roughly know how it happened. He also has camouflage and can become invisible for a certain period, allowing him to disable enemies better without direct confrontation. Peter, on the other hand, has 4 mechanical arms from the very beginning of the game, and then he also has the symbiote and spoilers with which he can perform special attacks. Even though the overall story revolves around a certain theme, both guys have their problems that they solve separately without the involvement of their partner. Each Spider-Man has their own side tasks and a phone where they can track them and switch between Peter and Miles at any non-story moment in the game. For example, Miles has a side mission to help the music museums where criminals stole rare instruments, while Peter has additional tasks related to plants. There are also a few missions for spoilers and, if I'm not mistaken, around 3 missions for Mary Jane. I'm talking about her because she can be a spoiler and similar missions were in the first game. So there is nothing new here, but she has become stronger. Although not a superhero, she is a strong and independent woman who can knock out a huge, exceptionally trained hunter with an electric shocker and even be faster than some superheroes, which looked a bit strange to be honest. But overall, The story is just fantastic and fans will be thrilled. I've heard a lot about the main story's purpose being short, but I strongly disagree with this opinion. It is of high quality and it is packed with incredibly spectacular visuals for about 80% of the time, making it very engaging. It takes approximately 20 hours to complete, and in some missions it strongly reminded me of the Spider-Man 3rd with Tobey Maguire in the lead role, particularly in terms of vibe, creating a pleasant and nostalgic. And at this point the game takes another turn and lasts for about 4 more hours. By the story, I cannot say anything negative at all. Sufficient time is given to all characters, and even though the game is primarily about Peter and therefore he is more present than Miles, the boy still has drawn his own drama in the story. There are many interesting characters and quite a few spoiler-worthy elements that I'm eager to share, but I want to avoid spoiling your experience. If you love Spider-Verse, you'll encounter several wow moments. So this time, I hope you really enjoyed the video. If so, you can like and subscribe to the channel and take a look at my other videos. See you and have a great time!